This is an introduction to multiplying fractions. And before we do that, we need to make sure we know how to change a mixed number, which is a combination of a whole number and a fraction, into an improper fraction, which is a fraction greater than one whole. And we know it's greater than one whole because something like 3 over 3 is equal to 1. Call these mighty ones or giant ones. And so if we had something larger than 3 in the denominator, then that would be more than one whole. So first off, we're going to get into how do you change a mixed number to an improper fraction. So if you just say the mixed number, you've got the beginning understanding of what it means. So if I say this 1 and 1/3, what I have is I have one whole, okay, so I have one whole and 1/3, so I have the fraction 1/3. Now we have studied that when you're adding fractions, in order to add them, okay, so here we're adding a fraction and a whole number. In order to add these two together, I'd have to have the same denominator. So I'm going to rewrite this 1 as a mighty 1. So there's my 1 there. Okay. And then in its place, instead of writing 1 as just a regular whole number, I'm going to write it as a fraction. And in order to do that, I have to have the same denominator. So 3 over 3. So here's my 1 and 1/3. So I have 3/3 plus 1/3, so I have 4/3. So my original problem, 1 and 1/3, is equal to 4/3. So this is how we change a mixed number to an improper fraction. So I would recommend that you pause the video and do these problems by yourself and then come back and check and see if you did them right. And you can watch an extra example if you want to, but just you want at some point kind of see if it's in your head versus it's one thing to watch a video and go like, oh yeah, I understand what she's saying, versus actually doing it yourself. So once again, if you say it, we have 1 and 1/4. That 1, I'm going to write it as a giant 1 or a mighty 1. So 1 and 1/4. In order to add fractions, I need to have the same denominator. So what fraction is equal to 1? 4 over 4, because this is 4 divided by 4 is 1. And then I add them together. 4/4 plus 1/4 gives me 5/4. So same thing. 1, and I'm going to just start with the giant 1. 1 and 3/5. And then what I'm going to do is in order to add, I have to have the same denominator. So this giant 1 is 5 over 5. Plus 3 over 5 gives me 8/5. Now here all of a sudden I've jumped and I don't have a giant 1, I have 2. So I could think about 2 is equaling to 1 whole and 1 whole and 1/2. So here's 2 and 1/2. I have to have the same denominator. So I have 2 halves plus 2 halves plus 1/2 is 2, 4, 5 halves. You could think about this as another way to do this is you can think about like, oh, I have a giant 2 and 1/2. So what fraction, in order to add them, I'd have to have the same denominator, okay? So I'd have to think about what fraction is equal to 2 wholes. Now some people have seen this little kind of shortcut where your teachers have taught you 2 times 2. Well, 2 times 2 is 4, because 4 over 2, that's your 2 wholes, and my 1/2. So that's where that little shortcut is coming from. And now I have 5 halves. So once again, 3 and 1/3, I could think about it as 3 giant 1s and 1/3. In order to add, I'll need to have the same denominator. So this is 3/3 as a whole, 3/3 as a whole, 3/3 as a whole, plus a third gives me 9, 10 thirds. Or if you want to think about with a big giant 3, 3 and 1/3. Once again, to add them, they have to have the same denominator. So you're going to think about that shortcut. What it's teaching you is 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 divided by 3 is 3. That's where you're getting that 9 from. And 1/3. So I get 10/3. So I get it either way, but it's important for you to understand the why. Now let's get to the multiplying fractions piece, which is the focus of this video. So there are two methods. One is you can use a generic rectangle and break it down. 2.5. So here's 2.5, and here's 1.5. And I'm going to basically find the area of each piece, and then I'm going to add it up. So the area of this first piece is, this is a rectangle, and rectangle's area formula is base times height. So this is 2 times 1, and that's 2. The second one, this is 1, okay, this is 1 times 1/2, and any number times 1 is itself, so this is 1/2. Now this next piece here is 1/2 times, this piece here is 2. When you're multiplying fractions, you need to make them both, they need to both be fractions. So I'm going to just rewrite this as 2/1, because 2 divided by 1 is still 2. And then I multiply straight across. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 1 is 2. And look at that, I have a giant 1 there. So 1/2 times 2 is just 1. Or if I think about it, I have half of 2, that's just 1. And then here I have 1/2. This side here is 1/2. And this side here is 1/2. Once again, this is not to scale. This is a generic rectangle, which means it fits all things. And then I'm just going to multiply numerator times numerator is 1. Denominator times denominator is 4. Okay, so this is 1/4. And then I add my pieces together. 2 plus 1 is 3. And 1/2 plus 1/4. In order to add these, I need to make them all with these two with the same denominator. I can keep the 3 as a whole number. And I'm going to multiply by a giant 1 of 2/2. So this is 2/4 plus 1/4 is 3/4. Now, the next one is this little song that I made many years ago. So you can sing along, and I would write these down in your notes so you have it. So multiplying fractions, check for mixed, check for wholes, make it improper, cancel, multiply, cancel, multiply. So when you're looking at a multiplying fractions problem, so first off, multiplying fractions, yes, I see this is multiplying fractions. I'm going to check for any mixed numbers. I have 2. I'm going to check for any whole numbers. I need to make them both improper first. So we already did that 2.5 up above, so 2.5 was 5/2. And 1.5, common denominator. So I get 3/2, okay? So make it improper, And then you can see if there's any canceling to do. So I'm going to make a special video on canceling. I would look for the numerator and denominator, see if they share any common factors. So there's no common factors here. There's no common factors there. So then what I would just do is if I could cancel, I'd cancel. That just makes it easier. Or you can just multiply straight across and then simplify. So I'm going to just multiply straight across. 5 times 3 is 15. 2 times 2 is 4. And then you can make this a mixed number. This means divide. So 4 goes into 15. 3 times, and then I have a remainder of 3, which means I have 3 wholes, 3 parts, and each part is 1/4. Okay? So just think about, which one do you like better? The first method or the second method? Watch this more than once, because you don't always get stuff the first time. Okay, good luck.